You grew up in a world built on beautiful stories. Stories that said women are gentle, kin beings, born to love and save men. That love is sacred. That love is healing. That once you find the right girl, every wound inside you will be healed. Every void in your heart will be filled, and you will finally be whole. But Nietzsche didn't write fairy tales. He wrote about the illusions men create to soothe the fear within themselves. And he wrote plainly, brutally, without filters, without compromise, because Nietzsche understood something most modern men still can't face. Women are not angels. They are not demons. They are human. And you were deceived, not by women, but by the fantasies you clung to so you wouldn't have to grow up. You fell in love with an image. You knelt before the feeling of being seen, and you called it love. But Nietzsche called it dependence. Romanticized dependence. And if you're ready to take off the mask, if you have the courage to face the truth, then what comes next will be a merciless mirror, reflecting back the unfiltered mind of the modern man. This is not a speech against women. This is a wake-up call for every man who is destroying himself in the name of love. And if you're still here, I want you to do something. Click like if you've ever been hurt by the beautiful expectations society placed on women. And if you want to go deeper into the truth Nietzsche saw more than 100 years ago, click subscribe right now, because what's coming next will forever change the way you see women. It's a reflection. You don't love her. You love the feeling of being needed. You love the way she makes you feel enough. Like you matter. Like you're someone worthy of existing in this world. But that is not love. That is worship. You saw the image of a savior in the body of a woman. You tied your identity to the approval in her eyes. Nietzsche once said, "The need to be loved is one of the most dangerous forms of human arrogance." It sounds paradoxical, doesn't it? But look closer. You call that craving love. But in reality, it's just your way of escaping the loneliness you've never had the courage to face. You're not looking for love. You're looking for shelter. Someone to give you a reason not to build your own strength. Someone whose gaze makes you feel like a good enough man. Even though, deep inside, you're still just a boy who hasn't grown up. You use her like a mirror. When she smiles at you, you feel strong. When she turns away, you shatter, because you've never stood tall on your own 2 feet. She didn't hurt you. You hurt because you gave her too much power to define who you are. And when she left, you weren't in pain because you lost her. You were in pain because you lost the feeling of being worthy in someone else's eyes. Men like that will always fail in love. Not because women are too complicated, but because they are too hollow to hold a healthy relationship. Love is not salvation. It was never meant to heal your inner void. It's not a reward for being nice or self-sacrificing. True love only exists between two whole people. Two souls who have learned how to stand in their own darkness. And when they come together, they share their light. They don't beg for each other's light. Nietzsche never saw women as the enemy. He simply exposed how men often make themselves victims of their own romantic delusions. They don't love women with understanding. They love out of an unspoken hunger. Can you see it now? Every time you get jealous, it's not because you're afraid of losing her. It's because you're afraid of losing the validation she gives you. You don't hurt because she didn't reply. You hurt because her silence whispers, "You're not good enough." That's not love. That's emotional addiction. You've used someone else as a painkiller for a wound you refuse to face. And the cruel truth is, women can sense this faster than you think. They have a sharp instinct for inner strength, or the lack of it. They don't need you to say, "I love you." They just need to look in your eyes when they pull away. And they'll know whether you're in love with her or in love with the feeling of being validated by her. A real man doesn't come to be healed. He comes to share his journey of becoming. He's not looking for someone to fill the gap. He's looking for a companion to walk the path he's already prepared to walk alone. And if you're still listening, and something inside you feels uncomfortable, that's a good sign. Because the moment you feel the pain is the moment you finally begin to see clearly. Leave a comment below. I stopped looking for someone to heal me. I started healing myself. Let that be your declaration, that you're no longer a beggar for love. You are a man building his own being, and love will be the reward, not the salvation. And if this message hits something deep inside you, click the like button. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel, so you won't miss any of Nietzsche's powerful insights on your journey to becoming an unshakable man. You think love is a realm of gentleness. You think that if you're sincere, protective, selfless, she'll stay. You believe you're the player, the leader, the one in control. But what's the truth? You've never held the flag. You were just a pawn in an emotional chess game where you didn't even know the rules. Nietzsche saw this over a century ago. He didn't paint women as evil. He drew the map of invisible power, the kind modern men still lie to themselves about. While men are busy building empires with money and strength, women, shaped by history, biology, and society, have become masters of emotional leverage. No swords, no guns, no titles, just a look at the right moment, a silence timed perfectly, a tear dropped in just the right place, and the whole world of men starts to shake. Why? Because they don't fight through confrontation. They win through softness, through strategy. While you thought you were protecting her, she was controlling your psychology down to every tiny reaction. You compliment her intelligence, she smiles. You feel sad, she holds your hand. You get angry, she goes silent. Not because she's pure, but because she understands emotional mechanics better than you do. You say, I love her. No, you're addicted to the feeling of being chosen, drunk on the gaze that makes you believe you're worthy. And like any addiction, you'll do anything to keep it. Your love stopped being presence. It became a gamble. And she's not the beloved. She's the prize, the certificate that says you're good enough. But Nietzsche didn't let you stop there. He said it outright. Men still live under the illusion that women are blessings, rewards, the thing that will finally give their lives meaning. But can't you see? A woman doesn't need to act powerful. She lets you appear strong, while she's the one setting the rhythm of the game. Who decides when the first intimacy happens? Who makes you text all night for just one reply? Who pulls away, crie à distance, and drives you crazy with absence? You think that's shyness? No. Nietzsche called it the art of deliberate surrender. She doesn't need to attack. She lets you run into the fire, and she controls the temperature. This isn't malice. It's ancient survival strategy, sharpened by thousands of years of living in a man-dominated world. She doesn't have muscle. She has emotional intelligence, and she wields it like a weapon. So why do modern men lose? Because you don't want to admit you're being played. You want to believe that love is sacred. That kindness will be returned. That sincerity will keep her from leaving. No, she will leave. If you don't understand the game, not to manipulate, but to awaken, you cannot love a woman like a boy craving a mother. You cannot place her on a pedestal and beg for affection like an emotional slave. Nietzsche foresaw the tragedy of modern men. They lose their power, not because women are too strong, but because they are too weak to be sovereign. If something in your mind just collapsed, leave a comment below. I'm no longer a pawn in the emotional chess game, because only when you stop playing by someone else's rules can you start becoming your own master. And if this part gave you something to think about, hit the like button and subscribe to the channel, because the next chapter goes even deeper. We're about to explore something almost no one dares to talk about: the truth behind purity, and how men confuse compassion with submission. You think you're in love, but you're in submission. Submission to an emotion you're too afraid to name. Submission to an illusion you fear losing. Because if it collapses, you won't know who you are anymore. Nietzsche didn't just see this. He pointed directly at the raw truth. Millions of men keep avoiding. You don't control your emotions. Your emotions control you. You feel happy when she texts. You feel anxious when she goes silent. You feel valuable when she's gentle. You feel invisible when she's busy. Every little action of hers, whether intentional or not, leaves you disoriented, like a compass thrown off by a magnetic storm. And you call that love? No, that's emotional dependency, the most subtle form of addiction. It doesn't destroy you all at once. It drains you slowly, silently, until you've lost your identity without even realizing it. You're no longer living like a man. You're living like a boy, desperate for validation in someone else's eyes. And the tragedy is this: women don't respect men like that. They feel suffocated. They feel pressured. They feel bored. Because how can she love a man whose every breath depends on her presence? Nietzsche once wrote, "A man who expects to be loved is a man who hasn't yet learned how to love himself." And if you're listening to this part with a hint of discomfort, good. That discomfort is the first step toward awakening. You don't need to become emotionless, but you do need to learn how to regulate the flow instead of being swept away by it. Because if you don't, you'll always be a puppet in the hands of any woman who knows how to pull the strings. You don't need someone to save you from sadness. You need to learn how to sit in it and walk out with your own legs. The world doesn't need another man who knows how to cry. It needs a man who knows how to remain silent without falling apart. She pulls away. You don't need to react. She tests you with silence. You don't need to demand a response. Your power doesn't lie in reclaiming her attention. Your true power lies in not being shaken by her indifference. Because in that moment, you are no longer an emotional slave. You are becoming a master of your inner world. And the irony is, the moment you stop begging for affection, you become more attractive than ever. Not because you're playing the silence game, but because you are truly no longer dependent on the outcome. You've learned the most important lesson of all. Love is freedom, and no one is free. As long as they are a slave to their own emotions. If this part touched something deep within you, leave a comment below. I choose self-mastery. I no longer kneel before my emotions. And if you're ready for the next step, hit like and subscribe now, because the next part will uncover a truth. Most men aren't brave enough to admit the purity you worship might just be the most brilliant psychological strategy ever devised in human history. You were taught that if you're good, kind, patient, and loving, one day, the ideal woman will arrive and reward you with her love. But Nietzsche didn't believe in rewards. He believed in trials. And women, according to Nietzsche, are not prizes for obedient men. They are tests of your maturity. You are not loved because you are good. You are loved because you passed the tests. She never speaks aloud. She pulls away. Do you chase? She turns cold. Do you get angry? Demanding, controlling. Every action, every silence, every subtle irritation she expresses. It's not random. It's filtration. She's trying to see if you are truly the strong man you claim to be, or just a boy clinging to a performance. Men fear being tested because they believe that real love is unconditional. But what's the truth? There is no such thing as unconditional love. She only loves you when you make her feel safe, physically and emotionally. And to make her feel that way, you must be as steady as a mountain, not in muscle, in emotion, in presence, in the way you remain unmoved by the chaos of the world she lives in every day. Nietzsche once said, "A woman loves a man who can stand firm in the storms of her own making." You think her testing is unfair. It's not. It's instinct. It's nature's way of selecting the man who won't be drained by the need to be loved. You see her as confusing, unpredictable, changing, good. That's how the feminine world operates. She doesn't want a man who's always just right. She needs a man who doesn't crumble when she's off rhythm. She will test you, not because she's cruel, but because she doesn't trust words. She needs to see you in action. When rejected, when ignored, when insecure, she needs to know this. That you are not dependent, not begging, not overcompensating to prove yourself. You just stand there calm, strong, fully in control, like a man who doesn't need to be loved in order to exist. And you know what? That's when she truly begins to love you. Not because you're more handsome, not because you're richer, but because you are yourself solid like a definition, not like a promise. If your relationship has ever felt like an endless series of emotional tests, you might be right. But don't resent it. Be grateful, because every test is a chance to reflect, to fix your weaknesses, and to rise to a higher level of masculinity. Women are not rewards. They are brutal mirrors reflecting where you still haven't grown. And once you pass enough of these tests, you no longer need to chase anyone. You become the reward. If you truly understand this, leave a comment below. I passed the test. I don't need the reward. And if every word here feels like it's awakening something that has long been asleep within you, click the like button and subscribe to the channel right now, because the next part will reach even deeper. It will expose something most men refuse to face. Purity is not a truth. It's a strategy. You once looked up to her like an angel. Big eyes, a soft voice, a graceful walk like the wind. You believed in that beauty the way a boy believes in fairy tales, and you called it purity. But Nietzsche would look at you, smile quietly, and say, "You're being enchanted by an ancient strategy. Purity is not a nature. It's a weapon, a subtle weapon, without a clear form, but sharper than any blade, because you don't put up defenses against purity. You open your heart, you lower your guard, you surrender everything. Without asking for anything in return, you say, 'She's weak.' No, she chooses to appear weak, because she knows that softness is power when men crave to be heroes. You think she needs protection, but in truth, she is controlling you through your need to feel important. Nietzsche once wrote, "In love and in revenge, women are more ruthless than men." Why? Because they know how to strike. Without lifting a hand, just a silence at the right moment. A tear dropped at just the right time. A subtle shiver in the eyes. And you collapse under the weight of guilt. You don't understand what's happening, but you still act. You apologize. You try to comfort her. You strain to hold on to the image of the good man. And that's the moment you start losing yourself. Not because she's bad, but because you lack the ability to see that purity can be the outer shell of a strategic mind shaped by experience. She doesn't need to raise her voice. She doesn't need to argue. She doesn't need to initiate conflict. She only needs to understand how men think, and that innocence becomes the perfect cloak to lead you into the trap. Not forced, not deceived, just guided by your own craving to be unconditionally loved. Nietzsche never told you to distrust all women. He simply wanted you to wake up from your chosen naivety. Don't confuse cuteness with harmlessness. Don't confuse weakness with powerlessness. And above all, don't confuse purity with innocence. Because behind that pure facade might be a woman who understands you better than you understand yourself. And if you're sitting there now, thinking back on the women who've passed through your life, and realizing something was never fully named, then maybe today is the day you begin to truly see. Leave a comment, "I'm no longer blinded by purity," to mark the moment you stepped out of the fog of illusion and into the realm of self-possession. And if this part made you sigh with the weight of how long you've lived inside a dream, click like and subscribe, because in the next part, we go even deeper into what Nietzsche believed was the true source of attraction. Not effort, but irrelevance. You thought that if you love her deeply, care enough, text on time, buy flowers, listen, comfort, and compromise, she would love you back. You thought attraction came from trying to make her happy. But Nietzsche would furrow his brow, look at you calmly, and ask, why must a man give up his essence just to be noticed by another? Attraction does not come from trying to be chosen. True attraction comes from not being needed when you don't need her, but still have the strength to want her. That's when you become irresistible. Not because you're playing hard to get, but because you genuinely don't need anyone to validate your worth. You don't chase. You don't beg. You don't tremble under a cold glance or a dismissive word. You stand there like a mountain, needing no one to be drawn in. And that very presence pulls people toward you. Nietzsche once said, "The most dangerous man is the one who doesn't fear being misunderstood, doesn't need to be loved, and doesn't fear being left behind." Because when you no longer fear losing, you begin to act like someone who already has everything. And the paradox is, that's when you gain everything. Women are not drawn to the pursuer. They're drawn to the man who's busy living his mission, where she is an extension of his world, not the center of his universe. You don't need to strain to make an impression. You only need to live your truth and let your presence speak. But why do modern men fail? Because they can't tolerate uncertainty. They can't handle silence. They can't endure not getting a reply. So they rush. They worry. They double text. They overexpress. And the more they do, the more she pulls away, because women can sense it. Who's acting from value? And who's acting from fear? The more you try to be loved, the more you reveal your emptiness. And neediness is the enemy of attraction. If you've ever asked yourself, I gave everything, why did she still leave? Then maybe you're learning life's most important lesson. Love is not a reward for size. It's the result of self-governed energy. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to stop lowering your worth for acceptance. And once you reach that state, you'll no longer need her to survive. You'll choose her, like a free man choosing what he truly wants. If you've ever lived as someone trying to earn love, leave a comment, I choose to be unnecessary. That's when I become magnetic. And if you want to go further, to understand why women test you relentlessly, click like and subscribe, because the next part will reveal a cold truth. She's not being inconsistent. She's testing you to see if you're worthy of the strength she holds inside. You think she pulls away because she's busy. You think she's angry because you did something wrong. You think her silence means she doesn't care anymore. Maybe. But maybe it's just a test. A silent trial. A way for her to see whether you're truly a man or just a boy wearing a mask of masculinity. Nietzsche didn't teach you how to text back. He taught you how to stand still in a storm. And the truth is, she's watching every small reaction, every glance, every word, every bit of strength in your voice. Not because she wants to make things difficult, but because a woman's survival instinct needs to know, can you hold your center? When everything becomes chaotic, she's not looking for someone who's nice. She's looking for someone who doesn't back down when challenged. She wants to know, when she turns her back, will you beg? Will you argue? Will you explode? Or will you remain composed, grounded in your presence? She wants to see that you won't shatter just because you're no longer the center of her world. Because that is a man. That is the raw energy women are truly drawn to, even if they never admit it. You've heard all the advice. Just be honest. She'll understand. Be patient. It's not wrong, but it's not enough. Women don't measure you by your words. They measure you by how you react when they take away what you think you need. And if you lose control in that moment, you've already failed the test. Not because you're not good enough, but because you've shown her that you're not strong enough to hold a deep woman. Nietzsche once said, "The man who can love powerfully is the one who doesn't break when rejected, because he doesn't love to be loved back. He loves as a conscious choice from a sovereign mind." When you understand this, you will no longer fear her changing moods. You will no longer panic when she goes silent. You will smile because you'll know the test has begun. And if you stand firm, without begging, without pleading, without trying to win, just being there calm, clear, unshaken, you become the man who cannot be replaced. Because she knows you're not loving her out of weakness. You love her as a choice made by someone who has already conquered himself. If you've ever felt like her tests were driving you insane, leave a comment. I'm not afraid of being tested. I fear only not being strong enough to pass. And if this part helped you realize that every moment of anger, silence, or withdrawal might have been a test, click like and subscribe, because the next part will hit the deepest truth in the female psyche. Women don't need a perfect man. They need a man who doesn't flinch. You think she wants a man who is handsome, rich, intelligent, funny, romantic, a great cook, a put, a musician, and willing to sacrifice everything for love. No, she only needs a man who doesn't get shaken. Not shaken by her silence. Not shaken by her changing moods. Not shaken by rejection, by challenge, or by moments when she stops being soft. Nietzsche never glorified perfection. He glorified inner steadiness. That quality which turns a man into a pillar, a still point in the chaos of life. Because a woman will change. Her emotions are real. And what she truly wants to know is this: when I lose my direction, are you strong enough to hold it for both of us? She's not asking you to be good at everything. She only needs to feel one thing: that when she breaks, you don't break with her. That when she doubts, you don't rush to justify. That when she's a storm, you don't get swept into it. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to be strong enough to stay whole. Because deep in a woman's instinct, she is always drawn to the man who can stand firm in the middle of her psychological storms. No judgment. No running away. No overreaction. Just presence. As if to say, I was here before the storm began, and I'll still be here when it passes. Nietzsche once said, a man who doesn't collapse when rejected is more trustworthy than the one who says, I love you every day. Because real love is not built on poetic words. It's built on the strength you hold when everything around you begins to tilt. And the paradox is, the moment you stop trying to please her, stop chasing her expectations, stop straining to become the ideal, you become the most attractive man of all, because she can feel it. You are real. You are not a product of fear. You are not trying to be loved. You are simply living your truth with clarity and strength. If you've ever felt like you weren't good enough, that you needed to be perfect to keep love, then today, Stop. Because she never needed a perfect man. She only needed a man who wouldn't lose himself trying to please everyone else. Leave a comment. I choose to be steady, not perfect. And if this part helped you see a simple truth you once overlooked, click like and subscribe. Because the final chapter is coming, and it will bring everything together. Love is not something that fills your emptiness. It's a reflection of your strength. You don't need love to be whole. You need strength. To stop needing love as an emotional crutch. Nietzsche never wrote about love like a dreamer. He wrote like a man who had walked through the hunger of the ego and realized this truth. Real love can only begin after you no longer depend on it. You're not looking for someone to fill the void. You step into love as someone who has already learned to live fully alone and still chooses to walk beside someone. And at that point, love is no longer shelter. It becomes a mirror that reflects who you are, strong or fragile, clear or confused, free or still bound by fear. She doesn't make you a man. She amplifies the version of a man you already are. If you are weak, she will test you to your breaking point. If you are strong, she will challenge you to rise even higher. If you don't know who you are, you will dissolve in her expectations. If you know exactly who you are, you will lead every encounter with presence. Nietzsche once wrote, "Become the flame." So you stop chasing butterflies and let the moths come to you. Love is not a goal. It's a result. The result of a man who has conquered his lack, his fear, his dependency, and walks through the world, not needing love to survive, but knowing how to live fully when he loves. If you've ever entered a relationship with a starving heart, if you've ever silently hoped she would take away your emptiness, then today, it's time to ask yourself, do I want to love? Or do I just want to be validated? Because when you are truly yourself, you don't love to become whole. You love to share your abundance. And only then will you understand love is not your salvation. Love is your strength, reflected through the eyes of another. If these words resonate with you, leave a comment. I love from strength, not from fear of being left behind. And if you're ready to live a life where love is the earned reward of your inner growth, click like and subscribe, because there are still many lessons ahead. From Nietzsche, from Jung, from Machiavelli, waiting for you on the path to becoming a man who cannot be manipulated.